You're listening to a Meatsmith Harvest. This is the podcast that encourages and equips you to grow your home around the harvest. This Farmstead Meatsmith production is made possible by you. If you like it, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/Meatsmith and donating at a level you'd enjoy giving at. Your gift helps us increase the quality and quantity of all our free media education. Thank you, and happy harvesting.
Hello, Meatsmiths. We are setting up for the podcastery here
Yes, sir.
in the butcher shoppage.
Oh, God.
Sorry. We're going to talk about ducks and stuff. At least that's what I'm thinking about.
We have so much.
We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. So this is your opportunity, Meatsmith members. If you happen to notice that we're live streaming on the Meatsmith table of the Facebook, you can jump on and put your questions in the comments, and I will see them, and we will answer them first and foremost as of utmost priority in this podcast array. So, and that is just for the Meatsmith members.
Yeah.
We're streaming on Instagram.
Hi, Instagram.
But they just get to listen.
Hi, Victoria.
And then we're going to have nice quality for to record, for to post in places.
Yeah. We have 3 places we're posting.
Wow.
On our website, iTunes, and YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and YouTube. Yep.
Yeah, and it's finally sounding good. We did about 8 sound runs just 5 minutes ago that I'm still cooling down from. It was a little stressful there. And we just needed to reboot the computer.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, the info coming from the mic was not making it in full. It was in part, which was confusing.
Right.
But it was making it in part to the computer, but
Mm-hmm.
not in full. So we didn't know if it was a connection or just the computer was
Fixed now,
overloaded.
though. We got it. Good to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, so it is April 18th. Easter's this weekend. We just slaughtered 2 pigs after looking in our freezers and knowing that we actually still have pork in there from our previous batch and hanging on our ceiling as well.
Lots hanging.
We have so much pork right
It's great.
now.
I love it.
We're feeling the tyranny of abundance right now.
Yeah, and one of the most tyrannous elements of that is the fat of the pig, especially our old spots, which tend to get very large.
Mm-hmm.
And these were 7 months old, these pigs that we slaughtered, and their back fat was, for scale, I'll put it next to my face, 2.5, 3 inches, which is awesome, which means you have a lot of back fat, and so did we from our last batch. And when you harvest a pig, the back fat is this thing that's everywhere on the entire body of the pig. It's the subcutaneous fat. It's everywhere except for basically on the legs. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so I have, I have a place for it. And the thing to do with all this fat, and this is just leaf fat too, also, like that's all that we've rendered. We haven't even begun to render the back fat, but there's larding, there's barding, and one great way to use quarts and quarts of rendered fat is confit. So we're doing a lot of confit, which means preservation, which is cooking stuff in fat. That's what it is.
Yes.
So it's pretty great. We're cooking trotters and tails in it right now.
Uh-huh.
Since we do still have 5 bellies, 3, 4 hanging. We have 4 bellies of bacon still hanging from the rafters, and even some bacon in the freezer. I've taken to making rillettes from a lot of the bellies of these pigs.
I know, we turned down some of the bellies, which seems...
Might be a first.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever needed
Yeah,
to
usually
do that.
I make rillette from a class wherein we generate some table scraps. There's just some little flappy ends that we cut off for things that we're going to cure and things like that will go into the Rennet. But this time I set aside a whole belly.
Yeah.
And better be good Rennet.
It will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can talk about that. In fact, I've been wanting to do a whole episode on confit for a while now, because last year we were doing sort of a series on meat preservation.
Yeah.
And we did whole muscle curing as one episode. And then we did a second one on fermentation, in which you talk about salami and you kind of talk about the difference between those. And then I wanted to do a third one and it just kept not happening. But confit as another method of preserving meat.
Yeah.
So, but I actually think we can fill out this episode to talk about much more than that too.
Oh my gosh, we have to be careful. There's a lot.
Real quick, can we talk about the family pig? We just had one of our 3-day events. And I always like to recap, maybe talk about any particularities of this group. Certainly they represent all over the Western world, as far as where they came from. And we even have some of the pate and blood sausage that we could show if we wanted to.
Yeah.
That we made over the weekend. It was a really fun weekend.
Yeah, it was great. We had people coming from Brazil, Hawaii, California, a couple from in-state, and we went through 2 pigs. We killed them one day, we cut them and cured them the second day, and then we cooked a lot of things the third day. And we really covered it all. It was fun. We had a couple from Brazil who are cheesemakers. They have their own dairy, and they make their own cheese. And they make it in just precisely the way that I fantasize I would make it if I had a bovine for to milk. They do really cool stuff. They use kefir as their starter culture, which is so cool because it treats milk as the primordial soup of all cheese, which sounds like a basic, like, duh, of course, that's what milk is. All cheese comes from it. All you need to do is add stuff, and then you get the different kinds of cheeses. And actually, no, that second part is not the case. Cheese comes with all the cultures. Straight out of the cow, it's got every culture and mold in it. Which if you think about it for half a second, of course it does. Where else would they come from? Like, it has all of the bacteria that goes in different directions under different conditions to make alpine, longer, hard, solid cheeses versus very young, bloomy, rinded cheeses. Even the molds, it's all there. Right out of the cow, ready-made.
Yeah.
And what makes different cheeses is not your addition of different ingredients, but how you care for the milk right out of the cow, which is a distinct province of curing. That's why I love, it situates cheese making not just in like this flavor making category, it's preservation. That's what it is. To care for something, that's where we get our Latin word for cure, curare. Right. It's the same root. You're caring for the milk to preserve it into various forms of cheese. And kefir is basically something that, as I understand it, it retains all of that diversity in the milk when you add the grains, and it prolongs it, and it lasts for a long time. We go through gallons of kefir here just as a family, but it's got everything in it, and so you can inoculate your milk with the slightly enlivened kefir, that has had all of its bacteria and fungi stimulated, and that's how they culture their cheeses. It's pretty cool. So I would like to visit them someday. Maybe you and I could go take a class from them.
I know.
In Brazil.
That's what we keep.
That would be so fun.
Fantasizing whenever we do these 3-day classes. We're like, can we do this too?
I know. It's so fun.
And I know they had David Asher out. Is this
right?
Is that his method, or?
That's the first place I encountered it.
Okay.
I mean, when I read his book, it was so refreshing to read a book about cheese that made it so it could fit in your brain. Yeah. Finally. Like, I had that revelation slowly, I guess, over time with curing meat. And really the piece that made it sensible to me was the preservation part, because that anchors it in the context of the home kitchen, in the hands of people who are not food scientists with temperature controlled, humidity controlled chambers. It's just the prowess of people trying to not die during the winter. That's where all the cures come from. And that actually simplifies how to make all the cures, because suddenly they're not isolated individual results of very tedious and detailed recipes. They are basically reactions to the environment around you and preserving the harvest. And so you get to know their ontology, which is more than just their parts, I guess. And that enables me to kind of fit curing in my brain. Like I kind of get it. It's meat preservation. And if it happens to taste really great in the process, that's just extra wonderful. And cheese is the same way.
Yeah.
And his book crystallizes it in that way. So I love it. So it's a good read.
Do you know the name of his book?
I think it's called The Art of Fermenting something. The Art of Fermented Cheese. The Art of...
I know it's a Chelsea Green book.
It is. Yeah. So, David Asher.
Yeah. If you Google...
It's great.
That.
It's a great summary of the whole thing. It's really good.
Yeah. Someday we'll get it when we have a cow and some goats or something like that. Cool. Yeah. So that Brazilian couple, they were part of our class. They were a huge gift to us, really.
It's great to have them
to the group. And there's a lady from Hawaii who's kind of starting up her own custom operation, right? Because she doesn't really, on her island, they don't have anyone.
Oh, the story was so convoluted. And unfortunately, it's a common tale in terms of what slaughter is available, the stuff that people have to go through, because they can't sell meat unless it's got the magical USDA blue stamp of approval thereon. And so on a place like Hawaii, that can be limited availability. And for small farmers that already are only selling a very small amount of livestock anyway, they can't just, grin and bear a hiccup in the processing. When you only process a few pigs a month or, even a year, for the processor to be like, oh, no, we can't actually do it this, quarter. Like, oh, that's a big deal for a small processor, where that's, for someone that's doing 100 pigs a month, that it's a little less detrimental. It's still a pain. But anyway, the USDA facility has minimal availability for the use of small diversified farmers. They live off grid, and she was really looking into custom slaughtering, which is a simpler set of rules, and it's accountable to the Hawaiian Department of Agriculture rather than the United States Department of Agriculture. And it's simpler, and it just means you can't retail the meat, you're selling on the hoof. So you're selling shares of a live animal, which kind of works in many ways for small producers, because you take a lot of the payment, if not all of it, up front, because the person's buying the animal while it's alive. And you can actually then buy the animal with that money, buy the piglet and buy the feed and raise it out. And then the people come and pick up their shares on the butchery day. So she wanted to see the truck set up. And I hope she got some good ideas. She seemed pretty capable. They'll figure it out.
There was also a gentleman from California, and I guess I'm impartial to Californians, having come from California.
Up there.
And so it was neat to meet him. He's a Mangalitsa. He's new in the Mangalitsa field, and what did he say? He's like the only one.
He has red mangas. Red Mangalitsas. There's white or blondes. I'm sorry. There's blonde Mangalitsas.
Right.
Swallow bellies. Probably have seen mostly swallow bellies. Those are seem to be the most common, at least in the Pacific Northwest. I've harvested a couple blondes, but he has reds, which I think are extremely rare. They're beautiful, big, red, curly-haired ginger pigs.
It just keeps getting more niche, because Mangalitsa is already really niche. Like, swallow belly and blonde. But, I hadn't even heard of red myself. So
he's got the red line.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And they're the real deal. They are 100% pure papered. He's not mixing it up. He's really going to stay true to the line. And It was perfect because when he came to this class, we harvested our big fat GOSs, Gloucester old spots. And while they are a different pig, old spots kind of bridge this gap between the lard pigs and the lean pigs in the sense that they are really flexible. If you feed them a lot, for example, as much as they could possibly eat every day, so they're never hungry even for a moment, they will be like lard pigs. You will have the same yield in terms of fat to lean meat as a lard pig. Easy.
That's our fat problem right now.
Yeah, bountiful problem. On the other hand, if you rationed them more, they would be great, lean, muscular, still healthy, pigs. And so he got to harvest our GOSs at their fat stage, which makes them not unlike what his red mangoes would be like.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to get a little perspective on just how much fat's going to be there.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's very much a lot.
Yeah.
It's great.
I just realized I didn't press record on this one, but I have a recording here.
Oh, nice.
So Peg is gonna have to do some magic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
She can just patch the poor quality visual.
Yeah.
And then it'll suddenly
blip into good quality. That's right. That's how we roll around here.
I gotta cool down again.
It was intentional. It was like entering into the the dark, and then you come into the light. We wanted the viewers to have that experience.
Yes. Except now it was in the dark again for me, and now I'm coming back into the light.
Okay. Right.
Why do farmers have to be technologically savvy these days? Why? But we do.
We do.
Okay.
Unless we want to go huge volume, which we don't. We do have a good question here from a Meatsmith person.
Okay, yeah.
A Meatsmith member. Tom asked a great question. He says he's heard from several super smart experts that nitrates are not bad for you. Do you avoid curing salts for health reasons or other reasons? So for me, it's
a good one.
Other reasons, which is a great question. Yeah, they're not. I don't fear them for health. They're not bad for me. You have it in your saliva, right? You can look up the chart. In fact, I have a book that has it somewhere. It lists out the nitrate content of a lot of foods, and spinach and celery seed especially, they're way up there, way higher than a salami. Even a salami that was honestly heavily nitrated by which they usually are, by United States conventional production methods. Excuse me. So, yeah, I don't actually, it's not for health reasons. I would eat tangy nitrite meat pretty comfortably, peacefully. No problem. For me, it's a flavor thing. Nitrate, when it reduces to nitrite, it creates a particular flavor that is, I think it's very obvious. And it's, so you know how there's great flavors tend to come in threes. They're like triumvirates of balance. And when you get three good things together, they create a total that's more than the sum of the parts, right? That's like the definition of harmony, and it kind of echoes throughout all of the cosmos. And salami, beer, wine, those are no exceptions. With salami and meat curing in general, I feel like that's salty, fatty, and then sour. So those three things, salt, fat, sour, are they come together in a cure in cured meat. And when they really come together in this beautiful harmony, you'll get buttery, nutty, cheesy, which again, I feel like those are our more abstracted terms for something that's more than the sum of, I'm not just tasting salt, not just tasting fat, not just tasting sour, but together they're giving me this new thing that is this glorious, lofty, sublime flavor. Salami can do that. But here's what nitrite does. And this, I experienced this pretty much in anything I've added it to. And I've only done that like last year for the first time in my life. I cured some bacon with nitrite. And I've been sampling salami with nitrite. I made some smoked sausage with nitrite. And so you've got the salt, the fat. And instead of sour, you get tangy. And tangy is different than sour. So sour is acidic. It's a low pH. It's more on the side of vinegar. That would probably be the extreme, you know. Mm-hmm. Sauerkraut. What else is sour? Pleasantly sour. Like even fruit, you know. Some, like all the huckleberries. There's a beautiful sourness right next to the acute blueberry sweetness of huckleberries up here.
Right.
Whereas salmon berries, when they're really ripe, are just like pure mild. Just a little hint of sour. But anyway, tanginess is, if you were to turn up the volume on tanginess to 10, it would be metallic. Mm-hmm. But in a salami, it's down by like, you know, 0.5 or 1. It's way down there. And it's not unpleasant. It's fine. I don't mind it, but it doesn't harmonize as well with the fat and the salt.
Okay.
It's yeah. So that's the main reason. It's a flavor thing for me. I can tell. It's like, oh, this salami it's just tangy. That's what it is. It tends to mute the other flavors. And this happens just, you know, in a salami, when nitrate reduces to nitrite, it dominates, depending on the level that you add it. And it prevents all the, no fat oxidizes, and oxidized fat is the source of a nutty flavor. Mm-hmm. If it's too much, then it's bitter, but you get a little bit of nuttiness also. So, and it also kind of, I don't think it doesn't sterilize the sausage, but it does inhibit the growth of other flavor enhancing bacteria. Mm-hmm. And it and proof of this is that salami with nitrite in it will taste the same wherever it's made. Mm-hmm. It dominates the flavor so much that it eliminates the conditions for unique expression of terroir, of season, of pork, of curing environment to a degree.
Yeah. Would you say that cheese, well, that was my question. Would you say that salami can be treated like you were talking about cheese earlier, that all of the ingredients are in the meat, just like all the ingredients for any cheese is already in the milk? Or are you still introducing things to the meat? And so it depends on, are the things that you're introducing helping facilitate a certain kind of place that it's going versus another place that it's going?
Absolutely. So it's definitely coterminous. Like the raw milk, fresh milk out of a cow, it does need one thing. And the fresh meat from a pig, it needs one thing. Okay. So milk from a cow needs rennet.
Got it.
It doesn't need culture. It's already got the culture. It's already got the bacteria. Hey.
Don't mess up my camera setup.
Don't touch anything. So the raw milk from a cow needs rennet, but that rennet, they belong together because all milk in the cosmos is destined for rennet.
Yeah.
It is incomplete without rennet. That's what it's made for. Because cows produce milk to feed calves. That's the reason their udders engorge. It's because they're mammals. They're going to nurse their young. And the thing about calves is they can't eat milk. Mm. So they harbor in one of their stomachs this enzyme, the rennet, that will convert the milk to cheese. And they can metabolize the cheese in their rennet stomach. So all milk is made for that rennet. That's where it belongs. So it's not like you're not really adding an ingredient, because that is the final cause. Yeah. That is the ontological end of milk, is calf stomach. Yeah. And so what do? You have to harvest the calf before it's eaten any grass. was very young,
Yeah.
less than a week, just a nursling, and you extract the stomach, and you can try the cheese. It smells like feta, but it tastes like ricotta. I've eaten it right from out the cow's stomach. It's very mild in flavor, but very punchy in aroma. Mm. And the rennet stomach is, and then you can dry it out, and that's your rennet. You can cut off just a corner of it and add it to the milk. And it's not necessarily that you're adding something, it's that you're completing the cycle. Like the milk wanted to get to the rennet anyway, and now you're doing it in a vat instead of in a cow's stomach.
That's so cool.
In a calf's stomach. And cows are monogastropods. Pod is feet. Monogastric. They have one tummy.
What are?
Calves.
Oh,
calves.
So
when their rennet tummy is huge. When they're little
split
guys.
Up into 4.
Well, they still have those other chambers. They're just totally not using them.
Okay.
And so when a calf nurses, its head goes way down. You see that angle that they make.
That's right.
And that makes a direct shot from esophagus to rennet stomach, skipping over the omasum and the doodleosum, whatever I forgot the other names. But the obomasum and the omasum, I think. It skips them, and it goes right to the rennet stomach. And then as they grow, they become these multi-chambered fermentation chambers.
Right.
And the rennet stomach is very small, in an adult cow. It serves like another function entirely. But the omasum is huge. There's a bale of hay in there.
Yeah.
Whereas in a calf, it's nothing. So for meat,
yes,
I think that the one thing you add to meat is salt.
Sure.
And that's all it takes to send it off in the right direction. And I would even argue that on the natural order, animals out in the forest, you think of carnivores that only eat meat. They don't lick salt rocks, right? They're getting their salt. Because all they eat is meat. Meat has a salt content already. It has minerals, it has salt in the blood and in the flesh. Whereas you look at like goats, mountain goats, sheep, they're on sheer cliffs because they're licking the rocks. They need salt so badly in their diet to keep the ferment going properly in their gut to metabolize all that cellulose. But they're licking that salt and imbuing their flesh with a salt content, and carnivores take advantage of that, and we do too. We add a little more salt, but they're made for each other, salt and flesh.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's so cool. Seemingly different entities that were destined to come together.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat.
The hunt is up.
How many people do you know you would say truly share your back to the land values? Or your passion for home-scale craft meat curing? Or simply love the multifaceted beauty of a good meal as obsessively as you do? Maybe a handful? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created an online community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world and a platform for them to learn from and inspire one another. In addition to our major semi-annual hands-on educational event, The Family Pig, here at our Pacific Northwest homestead, over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources years deep now, for you to dive deeper into your food journey with. And both our classes and online program include access to our private community Facebook page for your continued education and fellowship. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you, putting the knife in your hand, article by article, and comment thread by comment thread, and can support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today. Well, that actually is a great question because I wanted to talk about salami anyway. Because you've got a number of projects going on right now.
Right.
I wanted to take a little magnifying glass and see if you could share with us what you've got going on.
Yeah, so behind me, you'll notice, I have this box that looks like a refrigerator. And it is a refrigerator. It's a wine cooler that I've outfitted with 2 temperature humidity controllers. And there's a humidifier, dehumidifier, even a heater in there. And then the cooler itself, of course, has the cooler. Mm-hmm. So
you covered it to let the light not go
I'm trying
through.
to keep it dark in there.
Yeah.
So that, because the light on the fat will maybe create some undue rancidity.
Right.
Maybe too much. But the idea with that is I want to eat salami. And I want to have it for our family because we really like it, and it's a very good snack for the kids, and it's ready made. It's ready to go. You just got to slice it, and you don't have to cook it, and done. Mm-hmm. And it's nutritious and wonderful. So I've broken down, and I've created a curing chamber. This is the first time I've ever done it in 9-10 years, whatever, how long I've been doing this. I've never had a curing chamber. Because I really like having to deal with the limitations that we have here in the Pacific Northwest and create meat that wants to cure. Because here, in these conditions, which means you might not be able to get to cure things that cure elsewhere, like, say, the Mediterranean. Mm-hmm. But we have technology such that we can import a little Italy right there in your curing chamber. So you can cure salami, you can cure an Italian product by artificially creating this Italian environment. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing with the salami. And I felt myself liberated to do it when I realized that it's not a mutually exclusive deal. So what this means is I can cure salami that's like Italian salami in my little Italy and try to cure salami here in my shop. It's not like one or the other.
Yeah.
Just keep make more salami is the answer. So I'm still trying, I'm going to hang salami whenever I feel like. For here, it's like you just got to hit the weather perfectly for salami to age here in this butcher shop without any temperature humidity controls and to go well instead of going bad. It's tricky. We can hit it like it's like mid-fall and late spring when we have these windows of consistently high humidity, but it's also not quite hot yet. It's not very freezing. Sensitive, yeah. But even then, I think that's still a little bit trying to fit the Italy into the Pacific Northwest. Mm-hmm. What I really think I'm going to start experimenting with, and this is all in the effort to find like a Pacific Northwest fermented sausage. I guess that's the overarching thing that I want to do. One that is a gift of this climate, not something that I create through excruciating complex processes, but one that when I handle the meat with docility and respect for the ingredients and the climate as a gift, I get the perfect salami.
Yeah.
And so for that, I think it's going to involve smoking and maybe even a cooking step.
Okay.
More like what summer sausage used to be. That makes a little more sense to me here, and that's my next frontier, is to try to make a quick fermented sausage here. You make it, you stuff it, you put it next to the wood stove in the coldest part of winter, because that's when your wood stove is going to be the warmest, and we heat with wood. And they inoculate there for like 2 days, and then they go into the smoker for a very warm cooking step, and it's a long, slow cooking and smoking, and so it's a cooked sausage, and that acid achieved next to the fire makes it safe, and also will flavor it uniquely. And that acidic it's not a tang, remember, the sour flavor will be retained as it hangs, slowly being smoked and cooked in the smokehouse. And then you let it hang there as the smoked, cooked meat, and you eat it in the summer. That's summer sausage. So that might be closer to the model for well, actually discovering the model for a Pacific Northwest fermented sausage that is created with minimal kit. It's a product of the environment, not in spite of it, which is what that curing chamber does. That's out of place, which is all right. I just have to live with that because I want salami.
Yeah.
And we can do both. We can do both.
We can do both, yeah. And we're excited about that. We purchased all the kit for that, anticipating all the pork that we now have.
Yeah.
So we're putting it to use, and it's. I wish we could take your phone and show them the little app that you love to demonstrate for me at the end of every day.
It's ridiculous.
It's really
I also sort of resent it.
gratifying.
Yeah.
Gratifying in a just we feel very decadent. It's a decadent kind of gratification.
It is. It's not. Yeah.
But yeah, you just flick on a certain app on your phone, and it tells you what the humidity and the temperature are in that apparatus.
Yeah, it charts it automatically.
It's super slick.
I can get a 24-hour chart of how it's holding temperature and humidity. And I can even program in alarms if it goes below a certain humidity. All on my phone.
It
And
feels
I can
wrong.
program it from my phone.
I know.
I can be anywhere that there is Wi-Fi, I think, and tell it to lower or raise temperature or humidity. And
So
it
we'll
just does
see.
it.
We'll see.
It's pretty cool. I mean, man, that's a lot of ingenuity that goes into
I
that
know.
little system. So I'm just going to endeavor to deserve it and make some good salami.
Yeah. Well,
Period.
next time I complain about farmers and technology, that's the flip side right there, I guess.
Look at the app.
Yeah. So we'll let you guys know as soon as we taste it. So when do you think it'll be ready? You think?
I don't know. I'm just going to do my thing where I keep looking at it. But I think
Yeah.
it's going to be at least 6 weeks.
Okay.
Because they're beef middles.
Oh,
So
right.
they take a little longer.
They're bigger
Yeah.
than you're used to
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Maybe 12 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Doug, one of our members says salami is worth technology.
Yeah, I would.
Well put.
I think I'm going to have to agree. Grudgingly. Took me 9 years.
Okay, so I wanted to get to some of the other projects that you're doing. You've got a couple of duck
Oh, yeah.
toys.
I've been killing lots of ducks.
Yes. When I normally ask you, what have you been doing lately? That's what you've been doing.
I've been killing ducks.
Tell us about that.
And it's great, mainly because of all the slaughter jobs that I do, throughout the years. The one that I dread the most is duck slaughter. I really dislike poultry slaughter. It's wet, it's miserable, it's fiddly, it's redundant, it's the one slaughter job that it's really easy to look up and realize, oh my gosh, the end of the day is here and I'm not done yet, because you have to turn yourself into an assembly line to get through all the creatures, because there's always many, right? At least like 50 or something. And if you have one inefficiency at each bird, you don't notice it. It doesn't feel like much if you're taking, 4 extra minutes per duck. But if you're doing 30 or 50 ducks, that adds up, and pretty soon, anyway, you're drowning. And your hands are pruned because they're all wet, scalded. Anyway, I dislike it. Consequently, in order to not lose my mind, I have to meditate upon the culinary possibilities of duck, which are magnificent. They are so glorious. And it's really got me thinking, especially since I've been so happy with our current duck setup. So we only have ducks for eggs. But the thing about our duck setup is that it works.
We've got it dialed.
And I know, so a lot of you don't have this struggle, but I do, where I think a livestock project is working, and then we have 3 more babies. And then I have to go to work, and I realize, whoa, this doesn't work at all, because it's really inefficient, right? And you just don't notice that it takes you 8 minutes to open a gate. until you have other demands on those 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's pretty much been our livestock ventures here at the homestead for a while. And so for the past 5 years or so, I've been on a refining kick where I'm trying to make things efficient and serve us rather than me being a slave of very much jerry-rigged and, stuff that's barely holding together with baling twine and wire and tarps.
Yeah.
If it were just me, no problem. I can create beautiful, wonderful product like that. But it's not just me. There's other demands on my time. So the ducks have been dialed. Yeah. We have a laying flock that's dialed. It's really good. We get 21 eggs every day. And we did all through the coldest months of winter, no problem. And we have 21 ducks. Mm-hmm. So they are just at their peak right now. We'll get, I think the promise is about 300 eggs from each duck in the year. And that is my goal, is to keep them at that pitch, which means they need many hedges built around them. They need no interference. Their diet can't change. They can't be commingling with other fowl or poultry. I can't be adding new ducks or taking ducks away even. They like routine. Any disruption in diet or any of that, they stop laying. If one of them starts to go broody and I don't catch it and I let her sit on eggs, it just throws everything off. If she hatches eggs, they'll stop laying. It really needs to be, they need consistency to keep laying. They're creatures of habit. It's beautiful. And it's smooth, such that John Luke, our son, can take care of the ducks. It's his chore. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's good. So, I want more poultry. I'm ready. I'm ready to build another thing, and that would be the duck fatting house or the poultry fatting house, which must, because of all the reasons I just stipulated, be separate from the egg house. The egg house is of its own. It's on an island, and it's perfect, and nothing shall disturb it. And so I need another house for our meat poultry. And the point of the meat house is to create fat. I really want to fatten poultry. I want to maybe do a couple rounds throughout the year of individual species. I don't want to mix ducks and chickens because I really want to manage what they're eating. Mm-hmm. And I want to manage their grazing. And all of that becomes more possible the more managed things are. It's like a garden. You plant a garden and you realize that, I planted broccoli right next to the beans and the potatoes, and then there's kale on the other side of that. I don't need to water the potatoes and the beans. But now I have to because they're intermixed with broccoli and spinach or something.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying. Because now you're watering them, which it sometimes is not good for the potatoes, period. And your beans aren't going to dry out. And maybe you wanted them to because you wanted dry beans. Mm-hmm. And so what you needed to do was keep them separate. Just basic management stuff. And I find that if you do that stuff in advance, you don't have to learn that lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
I've learned it all the hard way. But I would like to keep the chickens separate from the batches of ducks because they're going to be raised to different ages. I would like to finish them on different feeds. I really want to get super fat ducks, up to 18 weeks or so, much longer than normal. And hopefully be on the edge where they'll be slightly easier to pluck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we say all this because as of even just less than a handful of years ago, we've had all the animals, but they were jerry-rigged. So we had goats, but it wasn't perfect. And we had rabbits, but it wasn't perfect. Mm-hmm. And
2 herds of pigs.
We want to do that again. Right, we had Coonies and Gloucesters. Mm-hmm. And But we need to pick our battles. We really need to say no to some things so we can even more fervently say yes to other things.
Yeah.
So we long for those other things.
Right.
But when we can really dial them as best we can.
And you can do it without it being all ordered
and we did.
segregated.
Yeah.
And we did, and it was fine, and it was good. But then
we wanted to
there
increase
are other things
our child herd
that demand your time.
Yes.
And but I think ultimately it's a good direction because you wind up with a well-ordered homestead. And it ends up being this, you have this principle where you're operating in the assumption that disaster will happen and it will be okay. There's something kind of overconfident about my erstwhile impulse to just like, yeah, let's get a herd of goats, let's do it. I'll just fence them with this and that and we'll just make it happen. And yeah, you'll probably make it happen. But what if something happens? You need to build resiliency in it. You can't assume that you're going to have 12 hours of daylight every day and all of your energies and faculties and not be injured and not have children and never get sick and always have help on the farm when you need it. Like, not going to happen. So the thing about a well-ordered homestead is that you kind of build things for the worst case scenario. And then when the worst case scenario happens, the livestock are fine. It's okay. We get a fly in here.
We almost had, speaking of disasters, a fly almost got into the pork stock, but I saved it, so. I guess that's why we do these in here.
Yeah, so our duck laying coop is totally resilient. I can keep them off, I can keep them completely penned with access to the outdoors and with water and feed. If we need to, which is really nice. And they're penned and they're contained and they're not running into the forest or anything.
And our 8-year-old does most of the chores for him.
And he does them all. So, yeah, I really want to make the poultry fatting house. I'm going to fatten chickens in there. I'm going to get some American breast chickens. There's the poulet de Bresse, which is a red, white, and blue chicken. Or I guess we should say blue, white, and red. I don't know. How do you say it if you're referring to the French flag? What order do we put the colors? But blue-footed, white-feathered, red comb. But they are this old school breed that the French have. It was the first protected livestock of like the French government when they're making these protected origin, denominant. I can't even say it. These protected foods. It was the first livestock, the poulet de Bresse, on that list because it had been grapes, wines. Articulating its origin, the DOP. And so I want to try them because, and then, they're all going to be the same age. So you need them all the same age for this. And then I'm going to put them in for the last 2, maybe 3 weeks. I'm going to fill it out. I'm going to feel it out in the coop. And their days are going to be very short and dark. And they're still going to have room to walk around and everything. But they're only allowed to eat corn that has been soaked in whey during that time.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to fatten them salubriously. And then my fantasy is to dry pluck them.
We're still working that one out.
We have a Meatsmith member that has a dry plucker. And I really want one. I think mostly it's that siren song of how can I get out of the misery of poultry processing? Which is ultimately a siren song because you can't get out of it. It's just a fact. It's just hard. It's just horrible. It's the way it is. But one of the most compelling notes in that tantalizing music is these European dry pluckers because it eliminates the scald. And I hate the scald. It like softens, after you're doing them all day, your fingernails are all soft because you've been scalding yourself as much as the ducks.
Yeah.
And your hands are pruny. And you got to heat it up. You got to make sure the temperature's there. You got to make sure you're not over scalding them. It's like this whole other huge job. Or you just kill a bird, walk it over to the dry plucker, and rub it up against these spinning discs. And it'll take longer, It's like maybe 4 minutes per bird.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe 3, maybe 2. If you're really good at it. I don't know. But then that's it. And it's dry plucked. And you've retained the epidermis. That yellow skin will stay on. And it's beautiful. You can leave the head feathers on. Looks very pretty. Just for display. For your home kitchen, right?
Yes.
Because that's important. Anyway. So I want to do that, and then I really would I want to fatten some ducks for obvious reasons.
Okay, so the dry plucker has been something you've been fantasizing over. You've also no longer are fantasizing, but you bought a new little toy, teeny tiny toy, because you were running up against some. We have a whole poultry series on the podcast that we can learn about how we slaughter ducks. But in a nutshell, the way that you harvest them is you cut their throat normally, but you've been harvesting for a farmer lately who wants you to do this fancy way by going inside the throat. I'll let you describe it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
So you did a little research and you perfected it.
It's pretty cool. The inside a duck and a chicken's mouth, and there's a really cool document you can find. It's open source on the interwebs, and it's got a diagram of this, and it's an old one. But it's a diagram of a chicken's mouth, and they've got the carotid arteries, that are running to their head, 2 of them, kind of like everything else. And there's 2, but then there's also arteries that cross and connect them. And they're right behind the jaw.
Okay.
And so you can bleed a duck or a chicken from inside its mouth.
Okay.
So it's very fiddly, because it's a tiny head, and you open its mouth and you slip a very sharp knife in there, and you'll get that artery that's crossing, and they'll bleed out their mouth.
Oh, okay.
Now, why would you do this? You don't lacerate the skin on the neck. So it's a presentation thing. It's like, I don't know how much sense it makes on the homestead, but other than for your own aesthetic gratification, and maybe to emphasize the dignity of the harvest and of the animal, but it means that when you are selling poultry, after you scald and then put them through a plucker, that wound that you make in the neck will open up and it'll just get gnarly and ugly. It won't look so good. But if you can make this discreet little incision in the mouth, they'll bleed out their mouth and their neck skin will be entirely intact. Their head will be beautiful. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of an aesthetic thing. And which is not a small thing. That's what I love, in the European, British, we've talked about this a lot, but the British spring lamb that is displayed so beautifully, and then you've even got the poulet de Bresse with, the feather remaining on the head, so you can see the red comb and the blue feet and the white feathers, which is like a verification that this is indeed a poulet de Bresse. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I think the thing I like the most about these old world processes is that they retain they don't try to obfuscate the sentient origins of the animal. And so there's eyes, there's heads, there's feathers right in there with the food, because that's where it comes from. And it's not a put off. It's not like, oh, this is gross and unclean. It is actually it's attractive. And I think that someone that has their appetite and their culinary sense rightly ordered would be attracted to that.
It's the stamp of approval from nature.
Yeah, it inscribes the carcass with the process that brought it to the display case. Whereas in the conventional grocery store here in America, the goal is precisely the opposite, to erase the entire process and especially the sentient origins of the animal. And so cellophane, neon colors, plastic, nothing that looks like a body part that's recognizable in deli cases today. And it's kind of insulting. It's like we all just want these protein injections of this amoebously shaped, could have come from anywhere, meat, whereas for at least a European or even like a Parisian shopping at a French market, the assumption is you want a chicken, as in like the living bird that came from somewhere, and you're aware of that, and it's beautiful. It looks beautiful. So I think it's still a noble goal to pursue on the farm. That's kind of why I want a dry plucker, because I would contend that if the animal that you're eating, if the carcass as you receive it, whether it's a lamb or a duck, if it's beautiful, suddenly you feel a little more responsible. Like, I can't just mutilate this. I can't just ruin this. Look at it's beautiful. If it's artfully processed. And we've totally lost the art of on the harvesting end of things. We really like the chefs and their culinary art and their plating and their arrangement, but what about the abattoir, the slaughterman? He should be an artisan. He should be delivering to the butcher a beautiful carcass. It's not just on the butcher to create a beautiful French rib rack. And anyway, just imbuing things with that beauty every step of the way enhances your culinary obligation, I think.
Yeah.
It would be a greater crime to mutilate it and destroy it and make it dry and not taste good in the cooking thereof.
This conversation will be continued in a forthcoming Part 2 episode. Thanks for listening, and peace be with you.